Back in 2021, while we were eagerly waiting for the start of the first part of Season 2, suddenly, one of the nerdy fans decided to dig through the early volumes, specifically Volume 8, Chapter 64, this page, and he asked Kubo. When the old man Osan wanted to say his real name, he was prevented from doing so by black ink, and he couldn't deliver his message to Ichigo. Was this work of Ichibei? Kubo's answer was that's correct. And this is when the controversy began. Did Kubo, when he said that's correct, actually mean that he planned from the very beginning for that black ink to be related to Ichigo, a character who didn't even appear in the story until the final arc? And does this mean that Yhwach was planned from the first appearance of the old man Zangetsu? Considering that Yhwach to this day is still the final antagonist of the story? Or is it, as some believe, just a retcon, meaning Kubo originally meant something else, but later, when he introduced Ichibei and Yhwach, he decided to connect the dots and claim that Ichibei was responsible all along. That's why, guys, in this video, we'll go over the major questions raised by fans who didn't find Kubo's answer convincing, as well as my own response by presenting my personal thoughts on the matter and also some popular theories. Let's start, guys, with the first point. If we assume that this really happened and that Ichibei in some way erased the old man's real name and that the old man Zangetsu actually had another name that he wanted to reveal, then how does this align with the established plot about old man Zangetsu? Because we know that one of the biggest plots of Zangetsu's character was the lie he told Ichigo, that his name was Zangetsu, and this was done to make himself appear like a Shinigami, while the real Zangetsu White was presented as nothing more than a hollow power. That's why some people believe that all this means is that old man Zangetsu, he actually wanted to tell Ichigo his name was Zangetsu, but Ichigo simply wasn't able to hear it at the time, which is why it appeared the way it did. The second argument some fans brings up is that if this was really Ichibei's doing, if he erased Yhwach's name in black ink, then Zangetsu wouldn't have even been able to attempt saying the name in the first place. But in this scene, guys, we saw the old man Zangetsu did say the name. It's just that the sound or name of the Zanpakuto didn't reach Ichigo yet. And this aligns with the idea that Zanpakuto's name can only be heard by their owners under certain conditions, such as when they achieve a stronger connection. A similar case happened with Zaraki and Nuzarashi, or with Toshiro and Yurimaru. Yurimaru was saying his name, but Toshiro couldn't hear it because he didn't reach the level necessary to perceive it yet. So maybe that's exactly what happened to Ichigo. Now, guys, before anything else, let me answer an important question. Would Kubo really confirm something just because he found a fan's question interesting? In my opinion, the answer is no. There have been multiple instances where fans asked Kubo similar questions, and he said, no, that's not the case. And let me give you some examples. In one question, a fan asked Kubo whether the black color of the Shihakusho Shinigami uniform was linked to Ichibei's abilities, suggesting that Ichibei could draw power from them in emergencies. If Kubo wanted, he could have said, yes, the black color is related to Ichibei, or something else that added depth to the idea. But instead, he was clear and straightforward, and he stated that the choice of black was simply a design choice, nothing more. Another example we can find in this interview, when they asked him about Shinji Hiraku. Since Shinji appeared in the very first chapter, the question came as follows. Did Kubo plan from the start that Hiraku would be a wizard? Kubo again could have easily said, yes, I always intended for Hiraku to be a wizard and a Shinigami. But again, he was clear. At first, Hiraku was just meant to be a transfer student. It wasn't until Kubo started planning the upcoming arc that he decided to make the wizard a part of the story and gave Hiraku a bigger role. There's also things Kubo himself admitted weren't planned for the start, like how the espada were introduced and numbered, and these were things he thought about before publishing their chapters. So if Kubo didn't originally plan for Ichibei to be responsible for the scene, I don't think he would have any problem saying so, just like he did in other cases. On the other hand, guys, this doesn't mean Kubo never plans anything. Some mysteries in Bleach were foreshadowed, even if not in full detail. Anyone who has ever written a story knows that sometimes you have a broad vision for certain events that will happen in the future of your story. Meanwhile, other elements are left open-ended, allowing them to develop naturally as the story progresses. Some events may be in the author's mind even before early arcs are fully written, meaning a writer might have a complete idea for a future arc while still working on the first or second arc. There is no writer on this planet, guys, who has planned every single detail from the start. The real challenge is how you will blend pre-planned ideas with new ones to create a cohesive stories. And Kubo has proven that some things were clearly in his mind from the very beginning. One of the most notable examples is Unohana's true identity. How from the start there was clear hints that she was the first Kenpachi, and how Zaraki gave his small childlike Zanpakuto the name Yhwach, not to mention how Yhwach herself is actually a manifestation of his Zanpakuto, or at least part of it, as hinted when Zaraki asked her where she came from. So there is no doubt that Kubo had ideas regarding the Royal Guard from the start. He even mentioned the term at the very beginning of the story, when Rukia saw the menus for the first time. And of course that doesn't mean he had every character's design, abilities, backstories, and full path mapped out from the start. Of course not. But since he stated that the black ink effect was because of Ichibei, then it's clear he had some concept for Ichibei from the start. Now guys, I want to talk about a key point. If this ability truly belonged to Ichibei, then why the Osan was able to pronounce the name in the first place? First of all guys, the presence of the ink itself strongly suggests that it was indeed Ichibei's doing. Otherwise Kubo could have just done what he did with Hyurimaru, replacing the name with two blank dots instead of covering it in ink. The fact that he specifically used ink implies something significant. Second guys, it's natural for Kubo's concept of Ichibei's power to have evolved over the years. Who knows, maybe at first Kubo indeed intended for Ichibei's ability to make people say the name while preventing others from hearing it. But as time passed, the idea changed. After all, we're talking about more than a decade between that chapter's release and the later revelations. So in my opinion guys, yes, Kubo had the idea that this was the work of the leader of the Royal Guard, Ichibei, but I don't think he had the full picture until the arc approached. It was the time to reveal the truth about the monk and the Osan also. With that being said guys, I'll end my talk about whether Kubo planned this from the start and move on to the real discussion. Why did Ichibei cover up the Osan Zangetsu's name in the first place? In fact, some fans ask an even deeper question. When exactly did Ichibei do this? Some suggest that Ichibei erased the name back when Yhwach was in his infant state, as seen in chapter 565. So maybe Ichibei was responsible for stripping Yhwach of all his vital functions, sight, hearing, everything. Because we have now some new scenes from the anime, when he was floating in the waters where the Soul King attempted to divide the original world. If you look closely, Yhwach suddenly transformed into a child and was shrouded in darkness. That could very well have been Ichibei's doing. If that's the case, then perhaps Yhwach's real name was one of the things removed in the process. Since Yhwach is a Soul King's son, it's likely that he had a name given to him by the Soul King, something other than Yhwach. Or maybe he had known him at all and the name Yhwach was given to him later by his first followers. If so, then perhaps the part of Yhwach's power that was inherited by Ichigo, his earliest Quincy bloodlines, still have knowledge of that erased name, and that could explain why Zangetsu was prevented from speaking the name when he tried to reveal it to Ichigo. Another thought that I had, which is my personal opinion, is that Ichibei might have erased the name only at the exact moment when Old Man Zangetsu tried to say it. After all, Old Man Zangetsu isn't Yhwach himself, he's just a manifestation of Ichigo's Quincy power, and by somehow Zangetsu took the form of Yhwach. It's possible that even some elements of Yhwach's name and sword were reflected on him. If Yhwach's name had been erased from existence, then no one should have been able to say it. Yet we see multiple characters refer to him by Yhwach. That's why I think Ichibei might have been observing Ichigo all along. Perhaps he saw him as the future successor to the Soul King, and to ensure that outcome, he needed Ichigo to take his time and follow the path that led him to there. Maybe Old Man Zangetsu was about to reveal a truth that could have completely turned Ichigo away from the path of the Shinigami. And when Ichibei realized that wouldn't happen by the way he wanted, he let Ichigo believe a fabricated truth, which will guide him eventually to the chosen path, and he will reach the Royal Palace. And this in fact will go along with the thing that Yhwach said to Ichibei, that he has wisdom. And by choosing not to reveal the truth about Old Man Zangetsu to Ichigo at that moment, he ensured that Ichigo would walk to the path he wanted. However guys, I still find the idea that Ichibei erased Yhwach's real name when he was just a child to be very possible. The name might not have been even Yhwach, it could have been something entirely different. And maybe when Ichigo was about to say something to Zangetsu in the later chapters when he discovered the truth, he was actually trying to know or to learn Zangetsu's true name. So guys, what do you think about this subject? I want to hear your opinions, either you are agree with Kubo or not. Give me guys your opinions in the comments, and see you guys in my next video.